There was no Uncle John Stamos, like America's John Stamos. Millions of people fell in love with him because of his hair, smile, and innocent charisma. However, he came clean in 2025. To him, it needed to stop. For the sake of argument, he played the part of a serial killer. He confessed that his portrayal of the villain Uncle Jesse Moore had a profound effect on him. Still, he had good reason to shun such portrayal. Caused by a drunk driving incident, his emotionally devastating divorce, and long, buried childhood secrets, your previous assumptions about him have been completely disproven by his revelations. John Stamos came into this world in Cypress, California on August 19, 1963. A former swimsuit model, his mother Loretta Phillips was of Irish and English descent. William Bill Stamos, Sr., was the son of Greek Americans from the second generation, who established eateries. Stamatopoulos was the original name of the family. After migrating to the United States in the early 20th century, Yanis Stamos, Bill's dad, modified it. The Greek mountain town of Kokori was the site of Yanis's birth in 1904. Yanis Kalopos killed Vasilios, the boy's father, in the street in 1905, when the boy was just 1 year old. The people referred to him as Judas. One of the reasons the family left Greece, because of that violent occurrence, which impacted their history. Both Janine and Alana were younger sisters of John's. They eventually settled into teaching jobs in California. The Stamos family was middle class, close-knit, and valued discipline and hard work. That was guaranteed by Bill. The family's burger joints, Duke's, Yellow Basket, and Burger Basket, were John's weekend jobs, even as he began to fantasize about a career in acting or music. These locations were far from glamorous. He was sweeping countertops and turning eggs. Gardena was home to one of the eateries. Everything else was dispersed around Orange County. Even when he was a teenager, he worked there. He claimed it was a life-changing experience that helped him become more punctual, more proficient, more professional, and more able to memorize lines. John made the statement, "I learned to be a pro." In 1976, he attributed this development to his father's work, ethic, and discipline. John first saw the Beach Boys play live when he was 12 or 13 years old. He would never forget that performance. He felt a spark ignite within him. During his time at John F. Kennedy High School, he played trumpets in the marching band. His passion for music and acting began to blossom. When he was 15 years old, he began training for acting roles and trying out for commercials. His passion for performance, magic tricks, and Disneyland only intensified. On the side, he studied magic and acting, while working at the restaurants throughout the day. He watched the Beach Boys that year, and it would have a significant impact on his life. He went to Ireland with his high school band in 1980. When he was a junior, they took part in the St. Patrick's Day procession in Dublin. There were no longer any social barriers among the kids after that excursion. he confided in his bandmate Ken Hada on the final day that his dream was to become an actress. He didn't have many friends. Physically, he was unfit, but his desires were crystal clear. Upon returning to his hometown, he began performing at proms alongside his high school pals. As a member of amateur rock bands, he was multi-instrumental. This wasn't an idle pursuit. He was getting a feel for the stage. He intended to enroll in Cypress College after finishing high school. He did, however, try out for the General Hospital cast in 1981. A one-semester postponement of college was granted by his dad. For John, that was sufficient. 3 weeks later, in January 1982, he was cast as Blackie Parrish. He had just turned 18. A 5-part series was originally planned. Monday was his audition. Wednesday was filming of his first scene, and the show aired the next week. Loretta, his mother, had such faith in him that she wrote letters to ABC executives expressing her belief. The audience adored him. Producers altered the script to retain him. After seeing the popular reaction, he went from having 5 episodes to 2 years. He received a nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a daytime program in 1983, when he was just 19 years old. He was also honored with a Young Artist Award and a Soapy Award. He had to employ security guards for his concerts that year. Due to the volume of fan correspondence, he was adored by teenagers, also mothers. Even though he was a naughty boy, he had a kind soul, along with Sammy Davis Jr., who famously said, "Blackie, you play drums, don't you?" John had reservations, though. Being another attractive face wasn't something he aspired to. He hoped that soap operas would eventually end. He began playing the drums at the tender age of 4. He put his talents to use by bringing Blackie's musical scenes to life. The band Destiny was even created by him at the tender age of 13. On occasion, he would play guitar and drum solos off the cuff during the show. He was looking for genuineness. Janine Turner and Demi Moore, 2 of his co-stars, were also his girlfriends at the time. He was maturing rapidly both on and off camera. While he was on General Hospital, he got 2 nose jobs. He wished he could perfect his movie persona. Simple career, enhancing moves, nothing out of the ordinary. He made up his mind to depart in early 1984. All hope was lost for Blackie. He went to prison after his character unintentionally killed someone. On 124 occasions, John had appeared. His earnings per episode were about 1,000. He was eager to give prime time a go now. His next role was in the Philadelphia rock band Dreams, a drama on CBS that aired immediately after General Hospital. Despite its brief 12-episode run, it represented progress. Additionally, he began to record his own music. Some of the show's songs were even written by him. Afterwards, in 1988, he contributed drums to the smash hit "Coco" by the Beach Boys. Their 1992 hit, "Forever," featured his lead vocals. In October 2023, the truth about his troubled history with the Beach Boys' never-ended relationship became public knowledge. He came clean about his sexual molestation at the hands of a babysitter when he was just 10 or 11 years old in his memoir. If you would have told me. It had been pushed to the back of his mind. His address for a children's charity was the only time it returned. He was silent at first. He was reluctant to make it all about himself. But after 20 years of being an advocate for child help, he finally felt the need to step up. According to him, coming to terms with it required me to write a book. According to him, it's as if you're pretending to be dead, so they'll stop. Sharing it added a new dimension of candor to his story, even though it hadn't been violent like other stories are. Despite his rising stardom, his father insisted that he continue working at the restaurants. Even though John had a regular TV appearance schedule by 1982, he still had to work weekends flipping burgers. Surprised customers would walk in when they saw a soap star at the register. John finally snapped. He finally got Bill to stop when he said, "Dad, I'm on national television. This is embarrassing." But those formative years lingered in John's memory. His work ethic, he insisted, was the key to his success. He got up early, acted professionally, and did the hard things. John Stamos's daring turn came when he was just 21 years old. He left his role as Blackie Parrish on General Hospital, a popular soap drama, and dove headfirst into something completely new. He co-starred with Linda Carter in the 1984 film Wonder Woman. This wasn't your average job. He has never tried action television before. However, he was not the hero. He portrayed an ally of the antagonist. However, he managed to steal the show, even during action sequences, combining hilarious physical antics with intense action. The filming took place in Los Angeles that summer, and he got a taste of what it was like to hold his own in a huge production by working beside a TV veteran like Carter. Dreams, his first major role, was offered to him by CBS in the same year. The show first aired on October 3, 1984. Stamos portrayed Gino Minelli, a rock guitarist and daytime welder from Philadelphia. Broadcast in stereo, it was an early attempt to cash in on the popularity of music videos, with acts reminiscent of MTV. Stamos would play drums or guitar in each episode. But the band's original songs were a huge failure. Ratings plummeted, and CBS ended the run. 7 additional episodes were shot, but never shown after only 5 by Halloween. However, Alone remained intact from the show. When Hart released it in 1987, it quickly became her most popular single. 3 years later, a song that had been buried in an unsuccessful sitcom burst onto the scene. Next, a less flashy victory. You Again, starring Jack Klugman and airing on NBC, was Stamos's breakout role in 1986. Acting out the reconciliation of an estranged father and son, they were superb. In the background, Klugman battled for Stamos's casting on the radio. There was an altercation. They formed an unbreakable friendship, despite the fact that others felt their chemistry was odd. There was an unusual turn to the show. Stamos' character had an audition with the Beach Boys once, but he didn't make the cut since he couldn't read music. Ironically, that episode didn't premiere until 1986, a full year before Stamos really began performing with the real Beach Boys. In 1986, while shooting You Again, he appeared as a charming playboy doctor on the Love Boat. A strategic move. He had sacked his agency and began managing himself after the Dreams disaster. He had to maintain his visibility. And the Love Boat was among the nation's most watched programs. The creators created his role with the express purpose of capitalizing on his renown and attractiveness as a soap opera doctor. The result was satisfactory. He was quite popular among the ladies. Grades maintained. It didn't do anything, but it kept his reputation alive until he did something greater. Stamos also made a daring entry into the film industry. In that peculiar year, he was in the ridiculous action flick Never Too Young to Die, which starred Jan Simmons as the villain Velvet von Ragnar, who was hermaphroditic. A gymnast turned hero. Stamos played the role of Lance Starrove. The film's father was portrayed by George Lazenby, a former James Bond actor. Numerous near misses occurred during the film. Stamos acted out actual gymnastics, based battle scenes, and motorbike chases. Simmons sings a musical number while the clientele of a biker pub, adorned in chain mail, ride motorcycles within. There was a major bomb, but now it's a beloved classic among movie buffs, as well as proving that Stamos could manage risks, stunts, and everything else thrown at him. In 1987, everything shifted. Stamos has been a part of Full House since its premiere on September 22, despite his efforts to have the name changed. His character is now known as Jesse Cochran. Jesse Kopnuplo was his chosen name because he wanted it to honor his Greek ancestry, a complete plot revolving around Greek family, traditions, and strange customs was unlocked by that one switch. In fact, he doubled as Stavros, Jesse's eccentric cousin. It was later revealed that Jesse's given name was Hermes, after a great grandfather who supposedly beat lava to the finish line in a volcanic eruption. The show's initial performance was lackluster. In the spring, it placed 71st. But after ABC reran it in the summer, directly after Perfect Strangers, the numbers skyrocketed. It reached the top 30 by the third season. Season 4 saw it reach juggernaut status. Jesse became famous. He gained widespread fame thanks to his signature hairstyle, leather clothing, and "Have Mercy" slogan. More than 24 million people tuned in to see the last show in 1995. Stamos nearly gave up after the first table read, which is something that few people know. Season 3 wasn't it, the pilot was. As Stephanie's 7-year-old Jodie Sweetin and the entire audience burst into laughter at her line delivery. Invisible, Stamos felt. He got up, went in search of a payphone, and dialed his agent's number. "Please, take this person off this show," he pleaded. A baby crib was the setting for the cast's final rendition of the Flintstones theme song. So he decided it was Yabba Dabba Don't Time. but he remained. When the show's ratings went up due to reruns that summer, he came to the realization that it might actually work. Stamos ramped up his musical output when Full House reached its pinnacle. It was July 4th, 1985, when he first performed with the Beach Boys, long before Jesse Katopoulos had strung a guitar. Together, they performed for audiences of almost 1 million people in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. They featured him in the music video for Kokomo in 1988. The producers finally caved to his repeated requests that they include the band on Full House. Forever, written by Dennis Wilson and originally recorded in 1992, featured his lead vocals. Then that rendition became the wedding theme for Jesse and Rebecca. It reached number 100 on the Australian charts in 1993. Fans will never forget it. My favorite parts of the show were the ones about the wedding. The premiere was on September 21, 1990, when Jesse's Greek relatives visited for Greek Week. Chaos ensued. DJ inadvertently tied the knot while making his way around a table. It wasn't until Jesse was 14 years old that he realized he had legally wed his ex. Jesse had already skydived, landed in a tomato truck, been arrested, and scarcely made it to the church by the time of the actual wedding in February 1991. But when the Beach Boys took the stage, it was an unforgettable event. By that point, the show's momentum had driven the production costs of each episode to about $1.3 million, which was twice the norm for sitcoms. On Broadway, an unforeseen event occurred in 1995. The man everyone recognized from television, John Stamos, took on a role that most people believed was out of his league. He became the new judge, taking over for Matthew Brick at the Richard Rodgers Theater. Pierre Ponfinch stars in the smash revival of How to Succeed in Business. Without really trying, nobody thought he was capable. Overexposure to television didn't make him cringe. His whole being was devoted to it. Tapping, voice coaching, rigorous rehearsals, and 8 performances each week. He went from being a sitcom idol to a performer who could not only make it through a musical, but really shine in it. The variety of his presence was lauded. While he was hosting, the show was raking in over 500,000 weekly. Paying $6,750 got you premium seats. According to Stamos, his mentor Jack Klugman was the one who prodded him. According to Klugman, he outshone Full House. We needed to let the world know. His Broadway career was proof of his abilities, but music has always been in his veins as well. He ended up in an even more intimate place as a result of that. His 1992 recording of Forever, featuring the Beach Boys, is a highlight. That wasn't just a random crossover amongst celebrities. The song has significance. Stamos had a unique connection to the song. After playing it as Jesse in the wedding scene of Full House in 1991, a role he had played since its 1970 composition by Dennis Wilson. He wasn't acting, but millions of people heard it there first. He wasn't pretending. On tour with the real band, he played lead vocals and drums, and he performed live alongside the legends. In 1993, His cover of Forever peaked at number 100 on the Australian charts as part of the band's Summer in Paradise album. He continues to sing it at Beach Boys concerts, even after all these years. Whenever he takes the stage, he now often pays silent, moving tribute to Bob Saget and those he has lost by dedicating it to them. Speculation regarding John's involvement with Never Been Kissed began to circulate at some point. Sadly, it wasn't the case. It wasn't 1997. The movie was released in 1999. Drew Barrymore played the role of the undercover reporter Josie in the film. Michael Vartan, not Stamos, as the beloved teacher. Just perplexion. Neither a cameo nor a deleted scene. Stamos played the role of Bennett, a Boston financial analyst, in a television movie that same year, titled Sealed with a Kiss. The fact that Stamos had a string of romantic comedy roles in the late 90s likely contributed to the confusion. However, his name was conspicuously absent from both the credits and the background in this instance. People are still inquiring, though. John Stamos tried something different once again in 2005. A powerful New York publicist named Jake in Progress sought to straighten up his life and become an ABC success. The initial pitch was rather aggressive. Instead of explosions, it was going to be awkward dates and sharp language, set in real time like 24, but with a twist. We swiftly shelved that concept. Stamos took the role of Jake Phillips, the slick, talking fixer with a history, in the more conventional version that aired. His supervisor was Wendy Malick. The eccentric artist was Rick Hoffman, and Ian Gomez was his faithful best buddy. It got off to a good start, attracting 5.5 million viewers. After a final try in January 2006, when it was coupled with Emily's Reasons Why Not, ABC pulled the plug, changed their mind, brought it back, and then killed it again. The rating plummeted. Each program ended that week after airing just a single episode, 7 out of the 20. One episode's shot never even made to air on ABC. Cancellation was officially announced on May 13, 2006. Jake in Progress came to a close at that point. In the same year, a more significant event started. When John Stamos arrived on set as Tony Gates, ER was already far into its 12th season, and a well-oiled machine. In the beginning, he was only a paramedic. The revelation, however, followed. He was actually a student of medicine, gaining experience on the job. His first appearance was in The Human Shield, an episode in which his companion was wounded in a frantic rescue operation. A bit brash, self-assured, and occasionally careless, the character was keen. They referred to him as a cowboy, someone who dared to challenge convention, particularly with Gregory Pratt. That vitality was in continual conflict with everyone else, just before it went up in flames and exploded in an episode titled Two Ships. Gates rushed into the building. He was just able to escape. He needed emergency surgery on the field to save his life. He became into more than simply an unpredictable factor during the subsequent 4 seasons. After a woman He was close to die of an overdose. He took over. Sarah, her daughter, became Sarah's guardian. His complex connections with Neela and Sam only contributed to his complexity. The emergency room staff finally had enough and sent him to the intensive care unit. But he proved himself worthy of being back there. He made an appearance in over 65 episodes over the course of 4 seasons. From 2005 to 2009, much more than what some may recall. He remained right up until the finish. John Stamos was captivated by Rebecca Roma. The moment he laid eyes on her, during a Victoria's Secret fashion show, September 19th, 1998 was the date of their wedding. Things appeared to be going swimmingly for a time. Her career took off, particularly after she landed the role of Mystique in the X-Men. But his hit a wall, and he began to crack under the pressure. He started to doubt his own sufficiency. He acknowledged feeling emasculated in his memoir published in 2023. He was so devastated by their 2005 divorce that he went so far as to call her the devil in interviews. She was someone he detested, deeply despised her. It wasn't until much later that he realized his personal anguish was the source of the hate. In a moment of clarity, he spoke the words, "Maybe she wasn't the devil. Maybe he was just as much to blame." As time went on, things only became worse. His mother, Loretta Stamos, whom he had formerly referred to as his soulmate, passed away from cancer. Her demise devastated him more than anything else. Alcohol was just the beginning of his downward spiral. He began blending it with ambient sounds. The sleep aids had a side effect of erasing some of his memories. Lines slipped his mind. No names sprang to mind. He had a blackout in 2016 while filming Fuller House, but nobody noticed. For some reason, he persisted in turning up. At a later date, he claimed that ambient was even more difficult to stop than alcohol. He was unable to sleep for weeks after stopping. But he knew it was for the best. Other options were not available. The evening of June 12, 2015, followed. The streets of Beverly Hills were his route. He swerved and looked away. According to witnesses, concerned for his health, the police pulled him over. Cedar Sinai was his immediate destination. He was found to have been under the influence of drugs, specifically marijuana and Vicodin, according to subsequent tests. He waived his right to a trial. After entering a not guilty plea on November 24, 2015, he was given a sentence that included 3 years of probation, an alcohol program, drug treatment, and 52 sessions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Someone could have been murdered that night. He stated afterwards. He characterized it as terrible, foolish, and ignorant. Life took a turn for the worst following the split. In 2007, Rebecca wed again. Twins were born to her by 2008. He remained solitary. Her departure sent him into a tailspin, and he observed from a distance. He came clean about his years of obsession with her and the resentment he felt toward her. He brought her up again in his memoir in 2023, this time referring to her as the devil. Her husband, Jerry O'Neill, had to clarify to their adolescent girls the reasoning behind their mom's ex-husband's comments. While having breakfast, the twins approached her and inquired straight away. It had become excessively intimate, public, and intense. This slump coincided with the reopening of another old wound. Terry C. Peepley, a lady he dated in the 1980s, and he briefly reconnected in 2016 while filming Fuller House. But then the surprise hit. She was suspected of having an affair with Tony Danza by him. He wrote about entering a room and finding them in bed together in his book. It devastated him. Although she maintained her innocence throughout, it was her word that they had already split up, claimed it never occurred. Furthermore, she documented the process in a video that she uploaded on YouTube. However, he was unconcerned. The more he insisted it really occurred, the more he resorted to his addictions. His 2015 DUI was the turning point. As soon as he was discharged from the hospital that night, he went home and drank a whole bottle of wine to put it all in his memory. July was the 30th day of therapy. However, he continued to drink while filming My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 in Canada. Just to get things done, he claimed he stayed loosely buzzed. Treatment, however, began to yield positive results. So was his work with the Child Help Program. He proceeded to speak, delving into a topic he had never addressed previously. A babysitter maltreated him when he was about 10 or 11 years old. For decades, he had concealed it. He was able to open up and release it through treatment. Next was the change. The 2016 season of Fuller House debuted on February 26. Uncle Jesse was no longer his exclusive identity. Also, he served as the executive producer. In 2020, the show's 5-season run came to a close. After years of feeling helpless, he finally felt in charge. With his drumming, music, background, and an adoring cast, he returned to Netflix for a revival. That helped. Another source also contributed to the healing process. He portrayed a man who covertly got ladies pregnant by tampering with condoms on Law and Order SVU in 2011. In that very episode, Caitlin McHugh played a female character. They began texting and eventually started dating years later. In February of 2018, they tied the knot. About 2 months later, at 8:32 p.m., Billy, their son, was born on April 10th. Everything changed because of that boy. Leaving Ambient was a nightmare. According to what he told Howard Stern, alcohol withdrawal was even worse. Nothing was normal for him. He couldn't sleep, think, or feel. He described it as being eerily similar to traumatizing scenarios he had previously performed in. Only this time it felt real. He proceeded with it nevertheless. He discontinued all pharmaceutical use, including antidepressants, once it was completed. At long last, he felt stable, he claimed. A role he took on in 2021 hit close to home. He plays the role of the irascible basketball coach, Marvin Korn, on Disney Plus's Big Shot. In 2023, the show came to an end after 2 seasons. However, he was able to integrate his new role as a father into his professional life. The character was an outlet for him to express his feelings, particularly the vulnerability he had as Billy's father. His 2023 memoir contained additional confessions of regret. Once, he declined the starring role in Nip Tuck because, to Rebecca's opinion, that the writing was degrading. The show was a smashing hit. He was left out. In addition, he went into excruciating detail about the Terry C. Peeply story, including how he discovered her in bed with Danza to the tune of Elton John's music. Inconsolable, he bolted down her driveway. It was worse than getting punched. Later on, he even made a joke about how Tony Danza's "Hold Me Closer" was playing. Additionally, he made a daring move in 2023. In contrast to his typical Uncle Jess charisma, he portrayed a deceitful character. In Season 4 of You on Netflix, he was ready to shed his spotless reputation. Now that he was sober, he wanted to play characters with more depth and darkness. Phil Stutz, his therapist, was important in his success. According to him, he would not be here today if he hadn't been. His Breaking Bad moment happened in 2025. "I wanted to play something real," he told US Weekly. Thus, he played a serial murderer in Danny DeVito's horror flick Drag. "This was the most sinister role he had ever played," he said. However, he came to love Uncle Jesse more after playing that kind of role, taking on more challenging jobs outside from the sitcom allowed him to truly understand the significance of Full House, he said. On Apple TV Plus, he co-starred with Kristen Wiig and Laura Dern in the second season of Palm Royale. A dubious lawyer and gynecologist, his character was Dr. Dusty Magic. He filmed scenes while dressed entirely in white, with slacks that were embroidered. November 12, 2025, was supposed to be the premiere date of the show, collaborating with industry heavyweights like Allison Janney and Carol Burnett was, in his words, an honor. And a lovely event occurred at home. He informed the audience at a charity event on September 30, 2025, that his son Billy had begun utilizing his famous dad to attract the attention of females at school. Billy casually responded to a girl's confession that Fuller House was her favorite show by saying, "That's my dad. He's Uncle Jesse." Stamos chuckled and said, "Billy mostly watches just to make fun of him." He often quoted Michelle Tanner's, "You got it, dude." Outside of fatherhood, Billy has been devoted to child help for over 30 years, hosting events, raising money, and even winning 125,000 on Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for the cause. His mom had warned him to stay grounded, so he has done his best to follow her advice.